He has got the best resources out there for if you're wanting to get on other people's podcasts or if you are wanting to podcast. I took his course about a year ago, and I was telling you about my podcast that I launched and how it's become a new revenue stream. And definitely, he is somebody that I have been studying and learning from as I've gone on that journey. So I can't wait for you guys to get to learn from him and do a deep dive into podcasting. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my mic and video and let you take it over.
All right, sounds really good. And I will just, again, apologize in advance if things get crazy from a Wi-Fi perspective. If I start going in just like mode or something like that, just let me know in the chat, because that I should be able to keep an eye on. But thanks, Amy. Really appreciate the opportunity here to hang out with you guys and share with you the Profiting from Podcast framework. And more specifically, what I'm going to be talking about here today is the new opportunity to generate massive visibility, highly targeted leads, and serious revenue at no cost. So let's just straight into it, because we got a lot of ground to cover, and I've only got an hour, so I'll be wrapping up here right around 11:33, 11:34, something like that Pacific here. But let me just say to you that my big promise to you here is I'm going to show you today how you can generate all of the visibility, the leads, and the revenue that your business needs. And you're going to be able to do that at no cost, okay? And we're going to go into a lot of detail about how to make that happen. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to present here today. So I'm also going to share with you during our time together my secret weapon for identifying the right podcast for you to pitch, for you to be a guest on, and specifically a proprietary strategy that results on my getting booked on over 92% of the shows that I approach. And these podcasts, I'm talking about shows, interchangeable here, podcast shows, etc. These shows, these podcasts absolutely help me, my clients. They can help you as well to generate visibility, leads, and revenue at will. And if you stay until the end of my presentation, again, we're going to be going right around an hour here, I am going to choose one winner, one lucky winner. So you got to pay close attention, because I'll share with you in a little bit how you can win this spot here. But I'm going to choose one winner to join me on our top rated podcast, which is called Reinvention Radio. So I'm going to put one of you on Reinvention Radio. All you got to do is pay close attention. I'll give that away here at the end. And I look forward to having one of you on the show. So let's rock and roll here. And if this all sounds good, and this is why you're here and you're interested in learning more about leveraging the power of podcast, just type the word podcast in the chat box for me right now. Just type the word podcast in the chat box for me right now. Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Austin, CS, John, Leo, et cetera. Great. And if we've never met before, I like to keep my presentations really, really interactive. I know you're not just here just to hear me babble for an hour. So let's keep this really interactive. We're going to be using the chat box, and I'm excited to help you as much as I can here. All right. So who is this presentation for? First and foremost, it's for the game changers and the movement makers who really want to reach the masses with their mission and their message. If you're a movement maker in your own right, in your own niche, just type the word let's do maker. Type the word maker in the box right now. Are you, I just want to see try to get a sense of who's here right now. You guys are movement makers or coaches or authors or speakers, etc. So where are my movement makers at? Yeah, okay, lots of makers. Good. All right. And then how many of you guys have come to realize that this whole world of digital and virtual is no longer optional, right? I mean, you can see with everything shut down, we got to do this, right? I mean, it's like you have to be able to embrace the world of digital and virtual. And that's certainly who this presentation is for. And then also this presentation is absolutely going to be for those who are looking for the most cost-effective and time-efficient strategy for generating visibility, leads, and revenue in a scalable and sustainable manner now. Now, what I'm going to be sharing here today is three things. Number one, I'm going to share with you my framework that has been achieved through massive trial and error and the investment of a lot of money over a lot of time. Number two, the framework, the Profiting from Podcast framework that I'm going to be sharing with you here today. Again, it works for me, it works for my peers, it works for my clients, and it may not work for you. I got to say that, right? I mean, the reality is I know what works and I know what doesn't, and I know that not everything works for everybody. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you and sugarcoat this and say that this absolutely 100% will work for you. It may work for you. It may not work for you, but I can tell you that the majority of people who work with the Profiting from Podcast framework they generate visibility, they generate leads, and they generate revenue like clockwork. Now, this is always the most humbling part of the presentation for me whenever I do this. And when I do this in person, it's easy because people stand up or they raise their hands, this sort of thing. I can't really see you. So again, I really need you to chat here in the box for me. So how many of you just give me a 1 in the box if this is the first time that you're ever having any experience with me whatsoever. So just give me a 1 in the box if this is your first time ever hearing me, seeing me, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, that hurts. But okay, good. So for those of you who I have met before, then it's good to see you again. And for all of you then who are new to my world, then welcome. And it's great to meet you. So my name is Steve Olsher. I am known as America's Reinvention Expert. Why am I known as America's Reinvention Expert? Because I gave myself that moniker as someone who has reinvented my life countless times over the years. That is really my expertise, really helping people reinvent their lives and their businesses. And I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, started way back in the day in the music industry. I had my own nightclub when I was 19 and got into the catalog world very, very early on. And we actually took that catalog and we launched on CompuServe's electronic mall in 1993. That's how long I've been online. Almost, wow, scared to say, almost 30 years online. How many of you guys remember CompuServe? Just give me a CS in the box if you remember CompuServe. Any of my old school CompuServe people here? Anybody? Yeah, okay, good. So some CompuServe people. Okay, good. So that company that we launched on CompuServe's electronic mall became known as liquor.com when I bought that domain along with bourbon.com in 1998. And so again, been online a really long time, put a book on the New York Times list called What is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do in 2013, wrote the business technology book of the year called Internet Profits, the world's leading experts reveal how to profit online. And as Amy said, I've been podcasting a long time, started with Reinvention Radio in 2009 and more recently with Beyond 8 Figures. So again, been podcasting for a number of years already. Also, I'm the host and creator of an event called the New Media Summit. So one of a kind event where we give basically, you name it, from any walk of life. You're a coach, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a holistic practitioner, you're a healer, you're a small business owner. Doesn't matter. We give everyone the opportunity to take center stage and to pitch leading podcasters on who they are and what they do, and they literally get booked on the spot. And because of everything that's going on here, we've taken our live event, the New Media Summit, which we've been doing since 2017, and we've converted it into a virtual event. So we're now doing the virtual New Media Summit, which is the same sort of thing. Again, we give people just like you the opportunity to pitch leading podcasters on who you are and what you do, and you literally get booked on the spot. And we just did a virtual New Media Summit not too long ago, and we had people from all over the globe joining us. I'm not going to show you all the screenshots there, but it was a rocking good time. I didn't know how it was going to go moving the event online, but it really ended up going really great. I'm also the founder and editor-in-chief of Podcast Magazine. How many of you guys have seen Podcast Magazine? Just give me the word magazine in the box if you've seen Podcast Magazine. Just curious if you've seen this one yet. We just launched earlier this year. Okay, so a couple of you have seen the magazines. We just launched earlier this year, and we've had an opportunity to sit down with people like Glenn Washington and Katie Couric and Jordan Belfort and Dave Ramsey, Jenna Kutcher, Adam Carolla, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's the only magazine that is dedicated to podcast fans. And so we do focus on the lifestyle, if you will, of podcasting and go beyond the microphone with the podcasters fans love and deeper into the stories that fans can't get enough of. So that is Podcast Magazine. And again, I've done a number of things over the last 3 decades as an entrepreneur. Don't want to go too deep into it, but just want to give you a little bit of a sense of who I am for those of you who don't know me. And what I can tell you unequivocally, and what I've learned over the years now, is that as an entrepreneur, again, no matter what you are doing, no matter what your niche is, no matter if you're a coach, author, speaker, entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. I can tell you that the success of your business really depends on one thing. And I will tell you that it is not your passion, it is not your desire, it's not your ability, and it has nothing to do with the quality of your offering. Let me ask you this. What do you think is the one driver that ultimately determines the success or the failure of your business? What would you say it is? If you had to, Aldo's been here before. You win. Exactly. And all of these answers are correct for sure, 100%. But I would agree, Aldo, 100%. And Nick's saying pretty much the same thing. CS saying pretty much the same thing. It is visibility. And what I will tell you is that visibility ultimately reflects the lifeblood of your business, right? Visibility, when done correctly, will generate highly targeted leads. Those leads should generate meaningful conversations. And ultimately, those conversations should be able to generate cash for you and your business. And so if you think about the old algebraic equation of A equals B and B equals C and C equals D, then A ultimately equals D here, which means that if you're able to generate visibility for you and your business, you will ultimately be able to generate cash for you and your business. And so what I will tell you is that over the last 3 decades, I have tried darn near every visibility strategy known to humankind. I mean, I've done it all, from buying keywords to blogging to video blogging. I mean, just live events, you name it. I've done it over the years, and I have spent, and we calculated this recently for another presentation I did, I've invested over $3 million in the last 10 years testing darn near every visibility strategy known to humankind. And some of those strategies work okay. Some of them just don't work at all. And ultimately, what I know to be true is that there is no better vehicle available to you right now for generating massive visibility, highly targeted leads, and being able to create basically on demand, at will, the revenue that you want to generate for you and your business. Rather than, I mean, just nothing compares to leveraging the power of podcasting for making that happen, period, end story. Again, I've tried it all, and I've been podcasting since 2009 for the last 10 years. Nothing even holds a candle to it. And so when I launched my own podcast, what I didn't realize was that it was going to open up so many doors. Being able to sit down with people like Simon Sinek and the founder of UGG Boots, like Brian Smith and Ariel Ford, and people like JJ Virgin. We actually do our show live in person in the studio. Well, we used to before all this fun stuff hit. And so we've had lots of people join us in studio. And I love what your last guest had to say, Amy, in terms of the whole credibility factor, right? Nothing will build your credibility faster, build your authority faster, help you really become the go-to expert in your niche faster than having a popular podcast, and even a not so popular podcast, right? Because again, it doesn't matter what niche you are in or how many people are listening. There are people who are literally begging and waiting and praying for you to show up in their lives. And a podcast will help you reach those people and allow you to share your expertise and connect with people who might normally not have opened their doors to you. And I myself am a guest on a lot of podcasts. Matter of fact, I have been a guest on over 500 podcasts in the last 4 years alone. Hal Elrod's Achieve Your Goals, ClickFunnels, Funnel Hacker Radio, Founder Magazine's podcast, MixerG, et cetera, on and on and on. And I would tell you that outside of a small number of Facebook ads, the only marketing that I do is by appearing on podcasts as a guest and by having my own shows, again, Reinvention Radio and Beyond 8 Figures. And what I know to be true, again, after all of these years of having to try, all of these various ways of generating visibility and leads and revenue for my various entities, what I know to be true is that podcasting generates massive visibility for you. And ultimately, visibility begets visibility. Matter of fact, right in the box right now, VBV, Victor Bravo Victor, type VBV in the box right now. Visibility begets visibility. And thank you for that, Sonia and Artie and et cetera. So yeah, thank you for your participation there. VBV, visibility begets visibility. Because I know that it's like for some of you who might aspire to maybe be a keynote speaker, get TED Talks or that sort of thing, I was able to get my TED Talk as a result of the visibility I'm able to generate through podcasting. I get appearances on shows like Mike Koenig's show, the cover of magazines like Founder Magazine, sharing the stage with people like Brendan Burchard and keynote appearances and so on. And again, the bottom line is that visibility absolutely begets visibility. But what I also know to be true is that visibility alone is not enough. You need a proven, predictable, and profitable system for turning visibility into cash. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. Is I want to help you avoid a lot of the trial and the tribulation, the brain damage that so many people I know have had to incur, and even myself have had to endure, in terms of trying to figure out what is the best way to generate the most highly targeted leads that have the highest likelihood of converting into real cash in your pocket. And so I want to share with you the Profiting from Podcast framework, which you absolutely can leverage to put real cash money in your pocket. And so today we're going to be talking about the Profiting from Podcast profit path, which I have perfected, my clients use, and again, you can use this as well to appear on the shows that you want to appear on, to generate the right leads, and to generate meaningful revenue for you and your business. And so this is what we're going to be talking about here. And although I'll try to get to your questions, I'm going to leave a little bit of time at the end here. But again, I have a small window during today's presentation, this whole session here. So let me just save that question. I'll get to it just as soon as I can here. But I want you to take a look here at the Profiting from Podcast profit path, because this is what we're going to be discussing here today. And it's a 6-step path, with 6-step ultimately being getting paid. And so this is what we're going to be talking about, is how do you get clear on who you are and what you do and identifying your topic of influence. Then how do you get acquainted with the right hosts and identify the right shows for you to get booked on. We're going to talk about how to pitch those shows correctly. We're unfortunately not going to have a lot of time here, right, to go deep into all of this. So we're not going to be able to go into the details around how to be a really great guest. It's engaging and just listeners love. We may touch a little bit on how to get them into your ecosystem, but we are going to talk about getting paid, because ultimately that is my goal here, is to teach you how to turn podcasts and the visibility that podcasting provides into real cash in your pocket. And again, I will tell you that this system works. Leveraging the Profiting from Podcast framework, I'm able to consistently put over 1,000 people on webinars that I do all day, every day. I mean, it's a beautiful thing when you can just click a button and make money. And I will tell you that this system can absolutely work for you as well. You can look at the bottom there. I mean, you can see there's a recent screenshot that I took of a webinar that we just did. We had over 1,100 registrants for that webinar alone. But, webinar registrants, that's all well and good, and visibility and generating leads. I mean, that's all well and good, but ultimately this is what you want to do, right? Ultimately, you want to be able to put cash in your pocket. And so here's a screenshot that I took just off of our Infusionsoft, for those of you who have Infusionsoft. And you can see, I mean, we're on track this year. We'll do well over $3.5 million this year. And I have basically one almost full-time employee, and that's it. And that's it. Other people are outsourced. They've got their jobs. They do their things. But we basically had one full-time employee. And ultimately, as I said, this system not only works for me, it works for my clients. I know it can work for you too. Just take a look at what Lucy said. By following the Profiting from Podcast framework, she was, and it's on the bottom here, she was recently interviewed on a pet photography podcast. From that, using our system, she booked 2 new clients and sold one online course. $12,000 in income. And of course, she also has her own podcast that we helped her to launch as well. But how many of you guys, let me ask you this, how long do you think the average podcast interview is? Just type a number in the box. How long do you think the average podcast interview is, just out of curiosity? About 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 to 40. Yeah, I mean, all of those are correct. I would say that on average, based on the data that I've seen recently, is that the average podcast interview is about 62 minutes. Actually, it's a little bit longer than you may even have imagined. Some of them are shorter for sure. The average podcast interview is about 62 minutes. So even if it's an hour, right? A lot of you guys are saying 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that's all well and good. Even if it's an hour, how many of you would trade an hour of your time for $12,000 in revenue? Just give me a yes in the box if you trade an hour of your time for $12,000 in revenue. Like, yeah, right, Austin said all day long. Susan, yeah, exactly. And again, that's what's possible here as we move forward with this discussion. Now, I actually just took this not too long ago because I want you to have a really solid understanding of where we're at in terms of podcasts. Took this morning. There are over 1.2 million podcasts available right now, almost 1.3 million. And that number continues to climb every single day. And so I'm sharing this with you because while there are a lot of podcasts that are out there right now, that, the fact of the matter is you don't even have to put yourself in that pool of competition to make this work for you. In other words, you do not need your own podcast to put this medium to work for you. As many of you know, there are 2 sides of the microphone when it comes to a podcast. There's the side of the microphone of being a host, and there is the side of the microphone of being a guest. And so today what we're going to be talking about is the easy button, so to speak, pushing the easy button of the podcasting world, which is being a guest. Because ultimately there are tens of thousands of shows, if not more, that are looking for guests just like you, even if you've never been a guest before. And Lauren, I will tell you that it is absolutely, and as a matter of fact, the more niche you are, the more specific you are, the more money you can make. Lucy, whose example I showed you earlier, her show is called The Profitable Photographer. So when she's a guest, she's on photography podcasts. Those are very niche-oriented shows. They may have 30 or 40 listeners, and that's it for each episode. But she's able to just go straight to the center of the bullseye. And that's how she's able to generate real revenue using the system. Because again, it doesn't matter how many people are listening. What matters is the quality of the people who are listening. And can you convert those people into highly targeted leads and ultimately loyal, borderline fanatic customers? And the answer is you absolutely can. And the beautiful thing about being a guest on a podcast is that you don't need to be famous. As a matter of fact, it's better if you're not. Let's play a quick game real quick. How many of you have heard of, just give me a yes in the box if you've heard of Gary Vaynerchuk or Tim Ferriss or Seth Godin or Ariana Huffington or somebody like, somebody like, okay, yeah, yes, oh, for sure. Okay. And let me ask you a question. Be honest here. Do you really need to hear from any of them ever again? Right? I mean, of course, I'm being a little bit facetious, but look, I mean, the reality is we know that, Tim's all about the hack. Gary's all about the hustle. We know, Seth's all about market. Like, we know who they are and we know what they stand for. What we don't know is we don't know who you are and we don't know who you stand for. For me to reach out and get Gary as a guest on my show or Tim as a guest on my show, like, I can do that, and that's easy because I know who they are and I can reach out to them. But the reality is what's hard is finding people just like you, people that the world hasn't heard from a million times. And I would tell you that me and my podcast friends, we actually prefer to have people like you on our shows because you're going to be thrilled and excited to be on our shows. You're going to share that, share that appearance with everybody that you know. Whereas Gary feels like he's doing me a favor if he comes on my show. Fuck that. Right? I want people who are excited to be a guest on my show. And I want to introduce my audience to people that they haven't heard from a million times. And again, the reality is you don't need to be, a best-selling author. You don't need to have a TED Talk or an email list. You don't need to be a wizard. You don't need any of these things to be a guest on today's podcast. All you need to be a guest on Leading Podcast today is this, okay? Now, obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious here. You need more than just a tiger's mouth. You need a mouth, you need a message, and you need a microphone. And I'm not even talking about a fancy microphone. Like for now, I'm using earbuds, right? Not the best sound on the whole wide world, but it works. You could use your phone, right? I mean, you can make all of this work for you. And so ultimately what you need to have to make this work and to put the power of podcasting to work for you in your business in a powerful way, what you need to have are the 3 M's. You need a mouth, you need a message, and you need a microphone. Type a 3 in the box right now. Give me a 3 in the box if you have the 3 M's right now. A mouth, a message, and a microphone. Yeah, great, awesome. Because that's all you need. That's all you need to make this work. But ultimately, one of the questions that I get more often than anything is how do you turn podcast appearances into leads and beautiful, delicious cash? And more specifically, how do I turn nearly every podcast appearance into $1,000 or more in real cash, in real revenue in my pocket every single time? And so if you want to learn how to turn every podcast appearance into $1,000 or more, just give me a $sign in the box right now. Give me the $sign in the box right now. You love money. You want to generate more revenue for you and your business. Give me that $sign. Okay, awesome. Of course you do. And that's why you're here. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So as we talked about, we're going to be going over the profiting from podcast, Profit Path. Thank you, Catherine, for the $3 signs there. Christine for the 2. Awesome. And so it all starts with step 1 on the profiting from podcast, Profit Path, which is getting clear on what I call your TOI. What is your TOI? Your TOI is your topic of influence. In other words, it is the 1 or 2 or 3 word description of what it is that you truly focus on. Think about it this way. What conversation do you most want to be part of? In other words, if you walk into a room and there are different discussions going on at different tables, and you can only sit at one particular table, and there's a conversation about finance, there's a conversation about sports, there's a conversation about business, there's a conversation about healing, there's a conversation about podcasts, whatever all those tables are. What conversation do you most want to be a part of? What table are you going to sit at? And think about it in terms of a search term, right? If you could only type 1 or 2 or 3 words into the search box of Google or Apple or Stitcher or SoundCloud or Spotify, so that you can find relevant shows that are talking about your area of interest, your topic of influence, what are those words that you're going to type into the box, right? Again, 1, 2, or 3 words. Because ultimately, your topic of influence reflects, and that's funny, Lauren, yeah, whichever table the podcast sitting on it, exactly. But ultimately, your topic of influence, those 1, 2, or 3 words, reflects what you most want to be known for, so that your name goes into that conversation, even if you're not sitting at that table. In other words, if you can force your way into that conversation so that people are talking about you, even if you're not there, that's when you've achieved the credibility and the authority and the status that the earlier guest was talking about here. And that's the beautiful thing about having clarity around what your topic of influence is that when you make that decision to say, I'm going all in this particular space, that's when the magic truly happens. And I will tell you that when we became clear that our topic of influence is podcasting, not coaching, not business, not just podcasting, that's really when everything shifted for us. And look, on the merits of our podcast alone, we were not going to be in the conversation around podcasting based on downloads when you compare it to a Joe Rogan or something of that nature, right? So we had to figure out, how do we force our way into the podcasting conversation? We started to do that through our live events. And ultimately, we really nailed that through Podcast Magazine. And that's what I want you to start thinking about, is getting that specific about what is that particular conversation that you most want to be part of. Because a lot of people want to do so many different things, like CS is saying strategy. Great, that's perfect. Caregiving, perfect. Improving, let me see what that says, improving operational efficiency, exactly, right? So this is the sort of thing that you have to start with, because ultimately it requires that level of clarity in order to find the right shows and the right host for you to pitch, so that you have the most highest possible likelihood of getting booked on those shows. So Parkinson's awareness, great, Catherine. Mother's leadership, exactly. Because ultimately what you're going to do here is you're going to take that topic of influence, again, the 1, 2, or 3 word description of who you are and what you really focus on, and you're going to use that as the search term with which to find relevant shows. So here's a screenshot from Apple. And let's say that you have identified your topic of influence as retirement. Well, you take that topic of influence, you pop it into the search box, and again, retirement would be the search term, right? The topic of influence in this case, and these are the shows that come up. Because ultimately, you want to find the shows that are already talking about your topic of influence, because those are the shows that are going to give you the highest possible likelihood of getting booked. Shows that aren't talking about what you do probably have little or no interest in your subject. Shows that are, those are the ones that you want to target. So again, if you look top right here, and you can see how I typed retirement in the search box, you can see these are the shows that came up just on a search for retirement. Now, the question that so many people have is, okay, I've got my topic of influence, Steve. I know the 1 or 2 or 3 words. Caregiving is, Catherine, right? Caregiving is what you would focus on there. Marketing already is what you'd be focusing on here. So you type that in the search box. Well, step 2 on the path is identifying the right shows to pitch. How do you know which are the best shows to pitch? If you type in retirement in the box, you're going to get a whole bunch of answers. If you type in marketing in the box, you're going to get a whole bunch of answers. If you type in caregiving in the box, you're going to get a whole bunch of answers. So how do you know which are the right shows to pitch? So one of the ways that we recognized that there was a problem here in the market where a lot of people were pitching shows that really gave them very little or no chance of actually getting booked on the show. As a matter of fact, let me ask you a question. How you guys have actually pitched a podcast to be a guest and you didn't hear back, or you weren't, you just didn't get accepted as a guest? I'm just curious if any of you have done that. Okay. Have any of you pitched a podcast to be a guest on their show before? Ever? Just curious. If you did for a client, Trisha, Sonia hasn't. Okay. Never pitched. Okay, great. So both accepted and not, says Christine. Awesome. So then the beautiful thing about this, and you're right, Brandy, a lot of podcasters simply don't respond. And already you've been asked, but you haven't actively pitched. Yeah. And so what I will tell you is that one of the most frustrating things about this process is, number one, of course, identifying the right podcast to pitch. And then number two, making sure that when you identify those shows, actually being able to get booked on the shows that you most want to appear on. And so one of the things that we've done to really help make this so much easier is we created what we call the podcast domination ranking system. So that once you've identified a list of shows and the shows that you want to be a guest on, you simply do a couple of small things here and enter in the information, and a number will be spit out right at you. And so based on that number, like Retire with Purpose, it comes back with 33 points. A show like Dave Ramsey would come back with 71 points, etc. Type in a few simple things and bam, right away, you'll get this number. And when you get this number using this podcast domination ranking system, you will know with pretty much certainty which shows that you want to pursue. And so ultimately, we created this system to help all of our clients get to a number very, very quickly so they know which shows give them the highest likelihood of getting booked. And this is something that we haven't released to the public yet. It is something that we are using actively now with our private clients. And it's something I'm going to share with you and give you access to here in just a little bit. But I will tell you that, again, when you look at the podcast profit path here, one of the hardest things are just these first two steps, which is, number one, again, getting really clear on your TOI, right? That 1, 2, or 3 word description of who you are and what you focus on. Number two is then being able to identify the right shows that you have the highest likelihood of getting booked on. And again, that's the PDRS, the Podcast Domination Ranking System, which literally will just give you a number, and then you can run it through and you can see what the likelihood is of getting booked on that show. Step number 3 here, of course, is once you identify those shows, you have to then get booked, and you have to pitch the right shows correctly. And so there are 2 main types of pitches, right? You can send an email, or you can pitch someone in person, or of course, virtually. Now, from an email perspective, I can tell you that with Reinvention Radio, we receive 30, 40 pitches a week. With Beyond 8 Figures, we receive about 10, 20 pitches a week, primarily by email. And the pitches that we get would blow your mind. I mean, some of them are pretty darn decent, but most of them are concerning, to say the least. And so ultimately, we've got to try to weed through all that. My producers read through all that to find the best guest. And what we have found is that there is a very specific email framework that not only, of course, works for us when I'm pitching and then people are pitching me to get booked on shows, but it works for our clients, and it certainly works for you too. And what we've done is we've put together very specific email pitch templates. And so ultimately, again, having seen thousands of pitches over the years and having heard thousands of pitches over the years, and again, at the New Media Summit, which we'll go over here in a second, I'll show you that. I mean, in person, I've received over 900 pitches at the New Media Summit. And I will tell you that there is a method to this madness. And ultimately, what we want to do here is just try to make things really easy for you to get booked on shows that will generate meaningful leads and revenue for you. And so we put together various email pitch templates that are literally just fill in the blank. And so I want to give those to you here in just a little bit, and I'll share those with you. But again, just know that if you're thinking about pitching shows, email certainly can work. But of course, anytime you have an opportunity to pitch in person or virtually and get in front of the podcast that you most want to appear on, that's going to give you the highest likelihood of success. And so at the New Media Summit, again, one of the things that we're so proud of is that we have a 100% track record of people who come to the New Media Summit leaving with bookings in hand. And again, people, just coaches and authors and speakers and holistic practitioners and, you know, people from really narrow niches like photography to, I mean, you name it, people have taken the stage here and they all leave with bookings in hand. And you know, reality is, as I said, given everything that's going on, we've had to move that event into a virtual format. And it's going really, really well. Now, Matt Browning, some of you may know Matt. Matt came to the live New Media Summit. He actually left with 24 bookings on leading podcasts. Again, you know, people like Michelle Villalobos came to the New Media Summit. She ended up getting booked on 23 shows and got 2 speaking gigs. Leah Dunlap came to the New Media Summit. She ended up leaving with 19 bookings. And again, my philosophy is that you can turn every podcast appearance, and what we teach our clients is that you can turn every podcast appearance into a minimum of $1,000 in revenue. So, I mean, if you just run the numbers here and we're at $1,000 a pop, yeah, it's 19 grand in real revenue, plus all the leads and the visibility and credibility and authority that appearing on leading podcasts provides for the people who come to the event. And as I said, we're taking that live event, and once again, we're putting it online. I mean, we're going to do a live New Media Summit. We were going to do it in September, but we had to cancel, obviously, with everything going on. So we're going to move it to February. But in September, in its place, we're going to do a virtual New Media Summit. So we're going to do our second virtual New Media Summit, which again will give people just like you the opportunity to learn how to leverage and monetize the power of podcasts and to pitch leading podcasters on who you are and what you do, and literally get booked on the spot. So our next one is going to be in just a couple of months here, September 10th and 11th. And we'd love to have you be our guest at that as well. Now, no matter how you pitch, whether it's by email or it's in person or virtually, one of the key pieces of marketing material, whatever you want to call it here, one of the key tools that you'll need is what's known as a media one sheet. How many of you guys actually have a media one? Just give me the number 1 in the box right now if you have a media one sheet. Just curious how many of you have a media one sheet right now. Okay, so a number of you guys do. Awesome. And so a media one sheet is basically, it's, as it says, it's one sheet of paper that encapsulates who you are and what you do. And what we teach our clients is that a really good media one sheet not only, of course, has the photo and the bio and the descriptions and testimonials if you have in your contact information, but specifically it has the media topics that you cover, right? What are the most popular media topics that you cover? And more specifically, if you look and you see there in the blue, you know, what is the value add for the audience that those media topics provide? Because at the end of the day, people don't care about what it is that you do or who you are. They really just care, the podcasters really just care about what is their audience going to get out of your appearance. So what is the primary benefit, primary takeaway, etc. That's what the podcasters and the producers ultimately care about. And so how many of you guys would like my team, for those of you who need to redo it or you're reinventing, how many of you, just give me the word media in the box if you would like my team to create a media one sheet for you, if you need a media one sheet right now. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah. So we'll figure out how to make that happen for you here shortly. So again, moving through the profiting from podcast profit path. And again, thank you, Amy, for the time here. And I know I sound like I'm going fast. I know I'm rushing through some things, but I really wanted to try to cover as much as I can during our time together. And ultimately, I can only go so deep into so many of these steps. But considering how many of the dollar signs I saw come up there in the box, it seems like you might want to talk about how to get paid and how to turn podcasts into leads and into revenue in your pocket. So let's look at step number 6 then, and we'll go right to step number 6, which is getting paid. And so ultimately here, what I can tell you is that the profiting from podcasts, profit path, and profiting from podcasts framework will help you, again, move from your topic of influence, where you're very, very clear on who you are and what you do and being able to articulate that in 3 words or less, to being able to identify the right shows to pitch and then being able to pitch those shows in the right way, to then being a very engaging guest, to be able to bounce people into your ecosystem. And ultimately, once you have those people in your ecosystem, then and only then will you be able to get paid for your expertise. And so let me just share a few examples here of people who have leveraged the profiting from podcast system. People like Duff Gardner, who appeared up on a show. Somebody, heard him on that show, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, but basically he appeared on a podcast. Someone who heard him on that show set up a call, said, hey, let's chat about some things. Duff went through the profiting from podcasts framework and the teachings that you'll learn from us. And ultimately, that one client invested in his offers that sell mentorship at $2,000, right? So I said one podcast appearance can easily generate $1,000 or more. Here's an example of double that amount, right? $2,000 from a single appearance by leveraging our system. So he says at the bottom, Steve's system for turning guest appearances into monetization opportunities simply works. Feel free to reach out, if you have any questions for Duff. Here's another example of someone, and you can see this is in our Masters of Reinvention Facebook group. This is my private community of people who have enrolled in various programs, products, and services over the years. And so Carol recently posted in the group, using this system, she appeared on a single podcast and netted over $20,000 from two people, because she's got an $11,000 annual coaching program, and she turned one podcast appearance into $20,000 in real revenue. And some of you may know Marisa Murgatroyd from Live Your Message. She's also someone who has followed this profiting from podcast system. She appeared on a single podcast, used our system. Somebody came to her page, ended up enrolling in her $32,000 program, right? So I know we talked a lot about, well, an hour can equal $1,000 bucks. Well, how about if an hour can equal $32,000, right? Even if it was half that much, how many of you would trade an hour of your time for $16,000 in revenue, right? Yes, of course you would. So ultimately, there's an old saying that it's the small hinges that swing big doors, right? And ultimately the hinge here that swings this big door, if you will, the whole world of podcasts and making this work for you. The hinge that swings the big doors here is, of course, getting booked on podcasts, right? So what are your options for getting booked on leading podcasts? I mean, you have a number of options, right? You can hire a booking agency. And there are lots of booking agencies that are out there. And on average, they'll charge you about $500 per appearance. So here's an email that I received not terribly long ago from an agency pitching me, which I thought was kind of funny. But Hardy wants to charge us $2,500 per month for 5 podcast appearances. And okay, look, again, if I'm making $1,000 or more per appearance, $500 in, $1,000 out, a 2x return, sure, take that all day long, right? Okay. You could also pay for an appearance. If you want to be a guest on Entrepreneurs on Fire, Johnny Lee Dumas' show, great show, no qualms at all about the show. You want to be on his show? Great, make it happen. You can pay for that appearance. Look at the bottom here. What does it say? How much does it cost to appear on John's show? Type it in the box. How much does it cost? Type it in the box. What does it cost if you want to be a guest on John's show? Exactly. $3,500. That's for one show, right? And then you could certainly hire a PR firm, right? We've done it. We've hired PR firms before. We just hired it for the launch of Podcast Magazine. A lot of ancillary services tied to that. $5,000 a month for a PR firm. Maybe you can get one for less, $2,500, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter what you choose, whether it's an agency or buying, time on a show or a PR firm, et cetera. All of these options are expensive. And none of these folks will teach you how to convert that visibility generated into cash. And frankly, they don't care if you turn those visibility appearances into cash. They take their money, whatever happens, happens, and they don't care either way. We do. We deeply care about what happens when you appear on leading podcasts. And we deeply want you to be able to turn every podcast appearance into cold, hard cash in your pocket. And this works too, even if you have your own show. As a matter of fact, how many of you have your own podcast right now? Just give me a yes in the box if you have your own podcast. I'm just curious how many of you have your own podcast right now. Okay, so just a couple of you, maybe a few of you have your own podcast. Okay, great. So whether you have your own podcast or you don't, even if you have your own podcast, this system can work for you. And again, if you have your own podcast, I highly recommend that you appear as a guest on as many shows as you possibly can. And so I want to share with you what we believe and what we know to be the most comprehensive offering available for learning how to fully leverage and monetize the power of podcasts. And it is, of course, called Profiting from Podcasts, right? I mean, that is the Profiting from Podcasts framework that we've been talking about here in the Profiting from Podcast Profit Path that we've been talking about. And for those of you who are like, I want in, I'd love to work with you, Steve, just I'm ready, show me what you got. The link there is at the bottom. Amy, maybe you can just copy and paste it and type it in the chat so people can see it as well. But it's just a short link for bit.ly/NMS pipe. So just as you see it there at the bottom, because I am going to have a pretty big bonus here for just the first 10 people who do say yes. And I promise you, it is significantly less expensive than it would be to hire a booking agency, to go on to John's show, to hire a PR firm. It'll be a fraction of that cost in total, and you're going to get a heck of a lot more. So again, bit.ly, so bit.ly/NMS pipe. If you want to take a look at what's included there, you can just go ahead and jump or and just listen to me, just open up a separate tab, and you can hear what I'm talking about as I'm going through this, but you can see everything that's included there as well. And again, we've got a pretty big bonus that we're including just for the first 10 here today. So let's run through what's included in the Profiting from Podcast training, which of course, we're going to go very deep into the Profiting from Podcast Profit Path, taking you through all 6 steps in deep, detailed fashion, from step 1 of getting clear on your topic of influence, step 2, being able to identify the right shows for you to be a guest on. We're going to give you the podcast domination ranking system, how to get booked, how to pitch those shows, give you your media one sheet, etc., how to be an engaging guest, how to bounce people into your ecosystem so that you don't just have this great conversation and then ultimately it's goodbye. You want your podcast appearances to be the start of the relationship, not the end of the relationship. And ultimately, people who are listening to podcasts, you don't know who they are. It is the one upside and downside about the medium, is people are listening, but you don't know who they are. So even if you're if you're a host, you don't know who your people are. If you're a guest, you definitely don't know who they are. So ultimately, you have to be able to bounce people into your ecosystem, meaning get their name, get their email, etc., so that you can begin communicating with them, because that's how you can then further the conversation. And then, and only then, after you further the conversation, will you be able to reach the last step on the profit path, which is getting paid. And we spend ample time going over a number of strategies on how you can turn podcast appearances into real revenue in your pocket. And so there are 9 detailed modules in the Profiting from Podcast training. And again, we go through all of the various steps of Profiting from Podcast Profit Path in great detail. And by the way, I'm not sure who that guy is, but that guy is clearly an imposter. And we've got to figure out how to get this guy onto that training. But just real quick here, Beard, let's vote. Beard or no beard? What are we voting for? Are we voting for beard or no beard? Oh, we say no. So Sonia says no. Are we voting for beard or no beard? Okay, there we go. Cia says yes to the beard. Susan says yes to the beard. This is the most important thing of all. I just think you're like my what do they call it? Not a case study. What is it when you have a room full of people? What's that word? I'm forgetting about it. Kay says no. There you go. All right. Yes to the beard, says Christine. All right, sweet. So we'll keep moving. Focus group. Thank you, Susan. It's my beard focus group. Exactly. Okay, so it's a little bit. Oh, take off your sunglasses. Okay, there we go. Take off my sunglasses. How about now, Liz? What do we think? Are we good? What do we think? Still beard. You guys are funny. All right, so you're adorable. Thank you for that, Liz. All right, so moving through. So again, 9 detailed modules in the Profiting from Podcast training. And again, from deep discussion around positioning, right? So there's broken down into 3 phases. 3 modules focus on positioning, 3 modules focus on presenting, and 3 modules focus on profiting. Thank you, Christine, for liking the sunglasses. So you're going to get the whole Profiting from Podcast detailed training. As I said, I'm also going to include the podcast domination ranking system, which again gives you a number, just spits out a number for you. You got to enter in a few little things, and then bang, it will spit out a number for you, and you'll be able to figure out quickly which are the right shows for you to approach, the shows that give you the highest likelihood of getting booked. So we're going to include the podcast domination ranking system. I'm also going to include for you the ultimate directory of podcasters. Now, Amy had said we got the best lead magnets, best giveaways, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for that, Amy. I really appreciate it. One of the lead magnets that we do give away once a year, we're no longer in that phase right now, but once a year we do give it away. Some of you may have seen it. Other than that, we sell it throughout the year for $297, which is the ultimate directory of podcasters. So we actually give you detailed contact information for 670 leading podcasters, the name of their show, the description, the category, their website, and we go even so far as to give you their email address as well. So we've done all the work for you. We will give you the ultimate directory of podcasters. We're also going to include the creation of your Media One sheet. So my team will create your very own personalized Media One sheet for you. So you will get that as well. And then the Proven to Convert, Get Booked email templates that I had talked about. We will give you those fill in the blank templates that you can simply use, copy, paste, get it out, get yourself booked on the shows that you most want to appear on. So again, you can just see all the details there. Yeah, but wait, there's more. Exactly, Lauren, you got it. But you can see all the details at bit.ly, so bit.ly/NMS pipe. And again, the Profiting from Podcast 9 module course, the Podcast Domination ranking system, the ultimate directory of podcasters, professional Media One sheet, and the Get Booked email templates all in. And we do sell, as a matter of fact, we just sold it in March was our last launch. We do sell the Profiting from Podcast program on its own for $1,497. So these are not inflated prices. These are actually what we sell these things for. It's not just some made up value. All of these things are sold at the prices that you see. It's over $3,000 in real value. And yes, but wait, Lauren, there is more. And as I said, so the bonus for today, and only for today, and only if you're one of the first 10, is some of you had already asked about the next virtual New Media Summit. And how do you get on to the New Media Summit? How do you pitch the podcasters? How do you get booked as a guest on shows? So we actually are going to be hosting, as I said, the next virtual New Media Summit, September 10th and the 11th. And so what I'm going to do, if you're one of the first 10 to enroll at bit.ly/NMS pipe again, is we're going to include an all access pass for the virtual New Media Summit. Now there's two different passes, right? There's a general admission pass, and that's $88. And then we have the all access pass, which is $888. And the all access pass allows you to pitch the podcasters, and we have just a rocking good time there. You will actually be able to pitch the podcasters. We select 10 finalists. Those 10 finalists will all be able to pitch live in front of everyone. You will be able to get booked on shows right there on the spot. We have cash, we have prizes for the finalists, and we did it for the first time just a couple of months ago. It was so good we decided, let's say this with all this COVID stuff, let's just do it again in place of what we were going to do in September, and we'll do it virtually. And so the virtual New Media Summit, again, is September 10th and 11th is our next one. It is the ultimate event for really learning how to leverage the power of podcasts. And again, you'll join game changers from around the world. I think we had over 300 people on the last one. We anticipate having much more on for September. And of course, we would love to have you join us as well. And in total, only 88 all access tickets will be sold in total. So again, we're going to hopefully have 10 of you say yes today. We've already sold some of them, but only 88 all access tickets in total will be sold for September's virtual New Media Summit. And if you haven't been to the event or you haven't heard of the event, again, we spend 2 full days teaching you how to fully leverage and monetize the power of podcasts, turn that visibility into cash, generate highly targeted leads, understand exactly how to appear on a show, and give yourself the highest likelihood of generating real revenue from those appearances. And, of course, we go over things that are going on in the industry and so on. But I have a lot of time left here, so I don't want to belabor exactly everything that's included there. But just know that if you want more details on the virtual New Media Summit itself, I'm going to leave a little bit of time here at the end to answer questions. So again, everything all in. We've got the Profiting from Podcast 9-module course, Podcast Domination ranking system, the ultimate directory of podcasters, the professional Media One sheet, get booked email templates, and the all access pass for September's virtual new media summit if you're one of the first 10 to enroll. Almost $4,000 in real value. And we're making it really, really easy for you guys to join us. And so we're doing everything for the investment of just what it would cost to get an all access pass to join us at the virtual new media summit. So if you go to virtualnms.com and you go to that site, don't go there now. But if you went there, you would see that for $888, you wouldn't get the profiting from podcast training and some of the other things that we're including. So we're doing this only because I wanted to, really try to do something great here for Amy and for everybody who's joining us here today. And so you can literally get everything that I've talked about for the same investment of what it would be just to get the all access pass to September's virtual new media summit. So one payment of $888, or if you need a 3-pay option, we've made it really, really simple. It's like $3 higher than what it is. We're not even charging you like real finance charges. It's like, $891. You can have a 3-pay option as well. So 3 payments of $297 is up. And what is today? So today is July 16th. So you'd make one payment. Your second payment would be August 16th. You'd be able to attend the event. So you'd be able to attend the event and go through everything even before you'd be paid in full. And so the third payment wouldn't be made until after the event. So when you go to bit.ly/NMS pipe, what you'll see there is that if you need the 3-pay option, just click it at the top and you'll see that will take you to the 3-pay option page. Otherwise, just go ahead and you choose the 1-pay and we'll get you squared away on that. And of course, I think it goes without saying, and I know some of you are meeting me for the first time, but just know that it goes without saying that everything that we do, we provide a full 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back 100%. And so just think about it this way. And again, having worked with thousands of people over the years, I can tell you that the profiting from podcast system works for you no matter what niche you are in, no matter how small you believe your niche, your category is, you can make this work. Even if you've never been a guest on a podcast before, you can absolutely make this work. And even if you're just starting with podcasts, you have no familiarity at all with the medium, you can make this work. And so I promise you that we have had people from all walks of life in any business that you can think of put the profiting from podcast system to work for them, come to the New Media Summit and leave with bookings in hand and learn and understand and implement how to turn podcast appearances into cold, hard cash. I mean, I love Nancy, and Nancy will be the first one to admit she is not the most tech savvy person in the world, and she couldn't even really figure out how to get onto our Zoom calls when we first started, the whole nine. And ultimately, once we got her comfortable and she figured everything out here, I mean, she said this is easily the best investment I've made into my business in the last 10 years. She highly recommends it, and of course, we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of others. Thousands of other people have gone through the process, gone through the program, have come to the virtual New Media Summit now, and have come to the real New Media Summit since 2017. And so again, the most comprehensive training and offering available for leveraging the power of podcasts, one payment of $888 or 3 payments of $297. Let me ask you a question. Just give me I want to get a sense here. How many of you guys have already gone to the page and are enrolling? Just say yes in the box if you're either on the page at bit.ly/NMS pipe. Just I want to get a sense of where we are in terms of how many of the 10 we have left. All right, so Lauren already enrolled. Who else is on the page right now? Just give me a yes if you're on the page. Okay, so if you're on the page, okay, good. All right, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. Again, bit.ly, and you don't need the www. Okay, Angela, good. So bit.ly/NMS pipe. And again, you don't need the www. It should work just fine without it. Okay, and then let me do this. Let me give away. I promise you I'd give away an appearance on Reinvention Radio. So here's the question. So as close as you possibly can to the number, how many podcasts did I show were active right now as of today on the screenshot that I showed you earlier in the presentation? Whoever is closest to that number, I'm going to give away the appearance here on Reinvention Radio. Let's see if you guys remember. If you remember. see if you remember. Give it another. Oh, Austin hit it. There we go. Austin's the first one. All right, Austin, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to type this in, or let me see if I can type it in the box here. I think I can. To all panelists and attendees, yes, I can. All right, Austin, good job, buddy. So here's what I want you to do. Email Kelly at Steve Olsher. Yeah, Angela, you were right there, but Austin hit it first. So I'm just going to go ahead and got to give it to him. So go ahead and email Kelly at steveolsher.com. Let her know that you won the appearance here on the pipeline presentation, and we'll get you squared away. All right, so let me just double check and let me see how many we're at. Amy, I know that we're coming up on time here, and I want to be respectful of your time. I know we had an hour going into this. So again, bit.ly/NMS pipe is where you guys can go. And okay, so right now, let me just double check. So if you're on the page, just trying to see if it's come through yet. I'm getting no connection here right now on my phone. So again, bit.ly/NMS pipe. Love to have you guys join us. Let me go ahead and stop the share here. So Amy, go ahead and I'll let you bring that back up. I'll type it back in the box. Yep.
Steve, you did an amazing job. Can you guys give Steve a big, huge round of applause? You did an awesome job. So much great value. And here's what I want to say, you guys. Go sign up for the program. I did the program a year ago, and in that amount of time, I've been on several podcasts. I can't tell you the number because I'm really bad at keeping track, but I've been able to get myself on the podcast that I want to go on, launch my own podcast. My podcast in its first 2 months generated $23,000 in revenue for my business in the first 2 months. So definitely worth, and I think I actually paid a little bit more than you gave them a really good deal, Steve. That was a really good deal.
You would have paid all day long $14.97, and if you paid payments, if you made payments, then it would have been more than that. Yep.
Yeah, I definitely paid more than that, and it was so well worth it. So I invite you guys to just go. If you're on that page and you're thinking, should I do it? Should I not do it? Amy says yes. Just do it. Take the plunge. Click the button. Like, it's such a worthwhile investment for your business. And Steve, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it. We're going to play this replay back. We also got it broadcasting on Facebook. And so we're going to make sure that you guys, I'm sure he shares so much information. I'm sure you want to go back and review your notes. So we'll send out that playback again as well. Enjoy the vacation.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Take care. See ya.